right, we are live. We are recording
Caffeine.tv
slash
for
T3G Media.
3G Media.
What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to T3G. My name is Dalibor. This is the Tangents podcast where we talk about some shit. And my ever-present, sometimes not present, but mostly present co-host is my cousin Haris.
I'm always present, even if I'm not there. I'm present.
This is episode 74. If you are just jumping in on this, whew, boy, are you jumping in on something heavy.
I know, right, man? Listen, this podcast, a lot of times, we talk about everything. Let's be real.
We're going to talk about a bunch of shit today.
We talk about everything. A lot of times, it happens to be movies, TV shows, games, but we do get into real serious topics. We talk about, rights and wrongs. We talk about equality. We talk about proper justice. Stupid shit that's said online that kind of goes towards that stuff, and so on and so on. Do we start a little light before we go?
I think we should start. I think we should start lighter. So let's talk about the lightest. Batwoman. Ruby Rose left the cast at the end of season 1.
She has confirmed that she has left, just in case you're not aware.
Right.
She tweeted it out.
It seemed,
there was
some behind the scenes stuff.
Yeah, there was a story that somebody did comment. I don't know if it was her or somebody from WB, but it's just simply something that says along the lines that, there were creative differences.
Right. I mean, there's always creative differences.
There's creative differences. And, they decided to mutually part ways.
Oh, yeah.
Listen, what that means to me, if you want to get real serious, this has nothing to do with creative differences. Somebody just was being a dick. Who was being a dick?
Right.
That's hard.
That's exactly
you don't know. You don't know. Was it her? Was she too high maintenance? You don't know. Was it fucking anybody on the other end where they were harassing her, right, for being bisexual, for being a woman? You don't know. We don't know. And
I don't think it's anything serious like that, because I feel like she would say something.
I would hope she would. I think
we're in an environment where now there is a considerably smaller amount of fear, I would hope, in speaking out against stuff like that.
Especially in Hollywood.
I think Hollywood. I think pretty much all of Hollywood's on board.
Yeah, I think the people that weren't on board are on board.
Right. So we were thinking it was going to be a recast of Kate Kane, and like the whole character was going to be recast. And
there was some rumors what else were we going to go off, right?
Right. They didn't say what they were doing. Yeah. But now they're saying that they are removing the Kate Kane character entirely. They didn't say how, so it's going to be interesting to see how it happens. But they're recasting it. They're adding a new character, and she is then somehow going to become Batwoman. And did you finish it yet? Did you see the end of it?
I have not. I'm still behind on the episode, so I have not.
Of course, you're allowed to comment, Duncan. Welcome to the podcast.
What's going on?
I'm interested to. We're doing all right.
We're doing good. Yes, you're absolutely always allowed to comment, and we will reply to the comments just randomly, because that's what we do.
Right. That's what Tangents.
That's what we do.
I'm interested to see how they do it. So so
me too.
I'll tell you right now. This isn't like a big thing. This was like this wasn't meant to be the finale. So like this was not meant to be the like season ending shocker.
Well, that's why when Flash ended, I watched the ending of Flash. I was like, that's the ending? Like, that's such a low ending for Flash.
Yeah, that's the thing. So Tommy, who is in the comics Hush, I don't know if you've read the book yet, if you haven't, now you know. But you would have known watching the show anyway. At the end, he's the whole time he's been waiting for a replacement face to like run away and be able to get out of Arkham. Alice gives him the face of Bruce Wayne. So now Tommy's going to pretend to be Bruce Wayne, which is how we're going to have a Wayne. And now it's just going to be a matter of But I just don't know how good the show can be without the conflict between Alice and Batwoman.
Kate Kane. Yeah, you're right. I don't either because sisters. Spoiler alert if you didn't know. Right. If you're behind the whole season.
No, Duncan. No, we don't do any kind of news streaming. We just do. Well, this is a podcast that we do pretty regularly, and we just cover a bunch of different topics and share our opinions and thoughts on them.
Yeah. No, we don't. No, none of that. Here's the thing. I said one of the things like that clearly we both said, which is not going to happen. But we were thinking like, oh, it's a few years later and Kate Kane's gone, and like that's not going to happen because right now they're all in the same universe. So
yeah,
they can't do that unless Flash is a few years later, which then wouldn't make sense to the storytelling of like the fact how Flash.
Yeah, there can't be a jump in time. It's just not going to.
Right.
Not gonna make
sense.
So
I'm thinking, without knowing how the series actually fully ended, right, with her and everything, they're just gonna be like, we're gonna see her be, leave a note or say, something's gonna be like, I'm gone, I'm done, I can't.
Yeah, she's gonna find a reason to leave. She's gonna find a reason.
Yeah, and then we're gonna jump into this new person, figure out who she is and how she becomes Batwoman. So
right, it's gonna be very interesting because like, how does she get access to all the stuff? Like, is she gonna like figure out that Kate Kane was Batwoman? It could be an interesting story. I'm reserving my opinions.
I feel like they can do it good. I'm glad they're not replacing Kate Kane as another Kate Kane because that would be
becomes
weird.
Complicated.
It would take me literally, like I told you, it'd take me a whole season to get over the fact that it's a different face playing Kate Kane. So the fact that it is a different character who will then become Batwoman, that's I'm okay with that. I think that's the best move. But I am interested to see how they do it. So that is interesting with that new update that we got from them. So that's I guess it wasn't an update from them. It was the fact that there was a casting call for a different character who is within the DC universe.
Is she? I didn't look up the name.
Oh, I don't know. Maybe I didn't. I have to double check. I have to look.
I think it's gonna be interesting.
Or the casting call mentioned the stuff that I was reading.
Yeah. The casting call mentioned that like she's gonna become Batwoman, and I'm like, okay, well that's cool. But then like there are just gaping holes because then it's the whole reason, right? The whole. Do you know about the kryptonite thing yet? I don't know how far you are. Did they mention the kryptonite?
No.
Okay, so I'm not going to tell you why kryptonite. But like there's a whole argument which goes back to the whole situation, not even from Crisis. I think it was from before Crisis, where
Supergirl.
Yeah, where Supergirl asked her to from the previous Crisis, from the Crisis of Multiple, whatever the fuck it was called. When Supergirl said, hold on to this kryptonite, just in case, and I'm gonna have hope that you're not gonna need it.
Right.
And there's just like that whole thing. It's part of the story, and I don't know how you follow that up with like, oh, now it's just like some chick who doesn't know Supergirl, and like there is no connection there. Yeah,
I don't know. We'll see. I don't have an answer for that. It's all speculation, but I am interested to see how they do it. I'd be excited to. As long as they do it good, I'm excited. I had no issues with Ruby Rose, I believe. I had no reasons with her playing, no issues with her playing
she did a good job.
Batwoman. I liked her overall as an actress. She wasn't great by any means, but I still enjoyed her. Like I did not like her. I didn't think she was bad. Which I'm pretty critical when it comes down to certain actors and actresses. Although I will say, I've always said this to you, and this is not anything against actresses or female actors or anything like that. But usually when put in a role, from my experience of what I've watched, a lot of times female actors or actresses, they tend to overact the toughness. Which I feel like
it's
she
a common
did not
thing.
do.
It's a pretty common
which
thing.
I feel like she did not do.
No, it felt like
overall
all
did
of
a good
her,
job.
all of everything, all her entire persona felt earned. Like she was clear, like she was in the military, like she clearly had to fight, harder than everybody else because of the built-in prejudice that she faced.
Right.
I get it.
So
I get
I
everything.
am hoping that the new person who jumps is the new girl, that she's able to do the same thing. I don't want this over the top, I'm a tough person act.
Right.
Like I don't want that. I want somebody that can take that role. We understand you're tough, but you don't have to keep telling us you're tough.
Right.
Like, type of deal. So
right.
Just don't overdo it, and we should be good.
Right.
We should be good. And then, depending on how the writers and storytellers decide to write that story, we'll see how it goes.
Right. Well, now let's speaking of we'll see how it goes. America is reopening very slowly.
Okay, it's reopening
very slowly. We are in phase 3 here in Illinois. And that means, you got some outdoor seating, restaurants, and I was just down the street. I was sending since he doesn't watch the podcast or listen to it, I sent Andrew a copy of The Absolute Kingdom Come. Yeah. So that's how we met, like him reading Kingdom Come in college. Mm-hmm. And I sent it to him, and I was at the UPS store, and there was this, I don't know, this fancy ass restaurant that I'd never been in, and I'd only, I'd seen cars parked there in the evening, but then I saw they took up their parking area and made it for outdoor seating. Yeah, because it's like you got to make money. You got to make money,
man. You got to,
and people are going to do what they're going to do. Like I know there's still the plan in Arlington Heights. I don't know if they've moved on with it yet, but there was the plan in Arlington Heights, and that's kind of on the thumbnail that I put the Arlington Alfresco, they're calling it, where they're basically talking about like kind of shutting down like the main strip on Arlington Heights Road. Right. To allow for outdoor seating, so the restaurants can have large outdoor seating, and it turns it more into Europe. And I thought it was funny because it's like, oh, outdoor seating and like no cars going. Like, yeah, that's like Europe. Like, we're good.
Yeah,
like, you're just turning into home for me. Thanks. Like,
thanks.
Thanks for bringing it home.
No, yeah. I mean, listen, things. But we always talk about this, right? We always mention this. It's like, if you're a business owner and you're not ready for something like this, and you don't know how to adapt,
dude, two perfect
you
stories,
are gonna fail.
Two perfect stories of adaptation, right? There was a fancy ass restaurant in New York. I forget what it's called. It was a fancy ass restaurant in New York. It was gonna be, like a $40-$50 a plate joint, like,
right.
There was only it was only in restaurant food. Like they had no plans of doing. Yeah, they had no plans of like any kind of carry out or delivery, any kind of shit. When this hit,
they're gonna have a chef.
When this hit, they did not fire a single person because everybody they restructured their entire business to delivery. All of their servers were packing and preparing food, and like everybody kept their jobs because they were quick on their feet. They thought about it and they adapted. Same thing in Chicago. There was a pizza joint, and this is like the coolest pizza joint, right? Pretty simple, pretty straightforward. They realized that their oven was hot enough to melt a specific kind of plastic they use in face shields. So they started cranking out face shields and selling those to hospitals.
There you go.
So coming out of this, they're going to have a pizza joint and maybe also a face shield business.
Yeah,
like
geniuses, dude.
It's proper adaptation.
You gotta adapt with the times. You gotta be able to.
I pity anybody that wasn't online prior to this.
Yeah, man. If you're not able to, listen. Does the situation suck? Yes. Does businesses being closed and having their money taken away from them? Yeah. My wife's a wedding photographer. She doesn't have a way to like bypass this, right? Because that's very specific. People have to have weddings, and they have to have
she'd have to go into a completely different niche, and
and like completely different. So, she is able to do now, her regular sessions where maybe she's doing a couple set of pictures, where with a couple, I mean, or she's got a senior where she's doing senior photos for them and stuff like that. But outside of that, she can't do her thing that gives her real money, which is the weddings. The weddings are going to be the ones that really make the money.
Yeah, I said I was recording first.
And so
it was shit.
that's going to be rough. But if you're in a situation where you have the capability
right.
Of somehow altering what you do to help yourself to get past this tough time, and you're able to do that, and you know how to do that, then good for you. You clearly are a proper business owner who is able to properly understand, here's what I do, but I need to survive now. So here's what else I can do.
100%. 100%.
That doesn't mean you stop doing the thing you normally do. That just means for now, to make the money, you do something a little different, or even extremely different, but at least you're able to do it right.
You modify your business plan. You have to modify your business plan. I mean, I think even going back to, I think we've talked about this example before when we were talking about minimum wage. There was a situation in San Francisco where the comic book shop was like, hey, we're not trying to close. They're about to raise minimum wage to $17 in San Francisco.
Yeah. How can we
Yeah, and they invented a whole new line of business.
How can we provide that
without firing anyone?
Without firing anybody.
So they need
keeping the shop.
So it's one of those things, right? You either cut costs or you make more money, and they chose to make more money.
Yeah, they chose to make more money,
smart.
And
it was a
they
smart
provided like a subscription service, and it worked.
And I'm legit gonna probably in 2021 I'm probably gonna jump back on. It was a cool service, and it was one of those things where like they choose the books, they send them to you. It's relatively within the value of what you pay per month. So every month you get a book that is about that value, sometimes more, sometimes a little less, but it's got a signed plate, like, so it's signed by the artist or the writer. You also get access to like a panel that they have with the creator. Like that's dope. So like I'm getting shit that maybe I wouldn't pick out normally. There's definitely I from in the 1 year that I was there, I definitely got probably 5 or 6 books that I would not have picked up on my own. Like I would have seen it on the shelf and like, that looks weird.
Yeah, it looks weird.
Yeah,
might be interested. Skip it today.
And then on top of that, I got a few books that I bought 2nd and 3rd and 4th volumes of. So like one of the books was called Monstrous. Fantastic series.
Right.
So like,
yeah, man,
it works.
No, it's all about being able to adjust with times, because like you said, I'm not sure how many other states are in this position, but here in Illinois, we're only on phase 3, which still limits us pretty greatly.
Yeah.
People like we talked about, restaurants can be open, but they have to have outdoor seating. If you're getting together, you can't have more than 10 people or something like that?
Yeah, no groups larger than 10.
So the limitations are still there, and they're great, and they're for us. Listen, at the end of the day, I get somebody might not be concerned for the virus.
Right.
They won't get sick. Here, listen to me. I don't normally get sick, and when I do, it's not too bad. I'm normally compared to most people.
We're built better.
Compared to most people,
it's just
my illnesses are not horrible.
It's the Balkan blood, man.
To the ones that I've heard, to the ones that I've heard that do have the illnesses, they tend to get pretty bad, and I've never experienced the ones they talk about. So I'm built better. Am I concerned that I'll be sick? If I am, it ain't gonna be that bad.
Right.
It'll be rough, but it ain't gonna be where I gotta go.
But the concern is for the loved ones, right? Erica.
But that's the problem, right?
My wife, when she's sick, when she's got a flu, she's out for 3 weeks.
Yeah, man. My wife, she has horrible asthma. She has horrible asthma. She has to take a steroid induced asthma inhaler every night. So her asthma is bad. So if she got it, she would almost certainly die. I have a mother-in-law that lives with us, or we live with her actually, and she's old. She's in her 60, like 65, so like prime person to get sick and die. And then other loved ones that I might want to see that could also get sick, just because children haven't been the bigger issue on this. That doesn't mean they can't get it. It just means we've been lucky and they haven't gotten it.
Right.
So, if you're sitting there and you're mad, be like, it doesn't matter. We'll take our chance. Like, okay, You'll take your chance. So we reopen. You get sick, but you don't realize you're sick because you don't have the symptoms. What's that? Asymptomatic or whatever.
Right.
Right. But then you give it to your mom, and you love your mom. But your mom dies because you got her sick. Should we feel bad for you? No.
Right.
No, absolutely not. No,
Yeah.
nobody. You shouldn't feel bad for you.
Yeah.
You shouldn't even get the right to cry because, hey, you didn't care.
Right.
So that's like, at the end of the day, like, yeah, I get it. We're all mad. None of us are happy that this shit's happening. People losing money. My wife's losing money. She had to try to file unemployment, and it just now we got the news that she got it. Just now. So
Yeah.
how long has that been?
Yeah.
So
Months.
don't sit here and talk to me about how you're losing money and how maybe some people don't understand. People understand. People get it. You're losing money. Sucks.
Yeah.
But you gotta work with the time. You gotta figure it out. We didn't buy out our means, right? We didn't go buy a house that I can't afford if something like this happens. We live with my mother-in-law, who generously doesn't charge us crazy amount of rent, but we still pay good amount of rent. But luckily, we're able to afford that rent because I still have my regular job. So it's like, it's you gotta figure out like how this shit, like, this shit's gotta this. If you're not prepared for shit like this to happen,
Yeah.
in your lifetime, you are doing something wrong.
I mean,
I always talk about this. So I always talk about this driving, right? I talk about it with you, and I never was able to put it in perspective until somebody said it. But it's called, and we know this game, but I never thought about putting it the way I think when I drive into these words. But it's called the what if game, right? What if there's a goddamn pandemic? Like, what do I do? Is my job gonna like me enough to keep me around? Like,
am I necessary for my job? Am I doing what?
Am I gonna be able to afford this beautiful sized house that costs me $1,500?
I'll be honest with you. That is the thing that always blows my mind when you have people that are like, oh, like, they, this person, like the father lost his job and now like they can't afford this house. And I was like, then they probably never could. Like,
right. Like, they were affording payments, but
sorry.
Were they really affording to be real happy in that home?
Because that's a decision you make.
That's
a decision you make taking all things into account, right? You say, all right, I make this much money. I'm this important at my job, and or I'm doing this well at my job that I'm moving up, not, I've been at the same position for 5 years. And that then and you mistake that as saying I have security.
Right.
There's a difference there. You being at the same level for 5 years is not the same as having job security.
Absolutely.
So then, year 6 comes around, they want to cut, so they cut yours because you've been around the longest. You make the most money.
Yeah. Like, I mean, companies will fire you for any reason. It doesn't have to be a pandemic. You could be just that one that's making too much cash. And you know what? They know they ain't going to come up to you and be like...
When Best Buy cut back, they cut all the middle management spots. They fired, like, in one day, they fired, like, 14, 15 middle management. Those were, like, senior area managers or whatever.
When Circuit City was still in business, they fired everybody who was there for a stupid long time that made a shit ton of money. And they said, because of that, we were able to get 2 new employees per person. And I'm like, yeah, but those 2 new employees might not know what the fuck they're doing. Right? So they'll cut you for any reason.
Yep.
It doesn't matter if it's a pandemic.
Budget cuts, yeah. So you have to be ready. At the end of the day, you have to be ready. Whether it's pandemic, whether it's just slow business, or whether
riots,
whether it's riots and looting and shit happens. I'm not gonna lie. Like, granted, there's a situation. I think it was in Chicago. The business owner got attacked by the looters, and that's a whole nother fuck you.
That's a no.
That's not protesters.
Sorry.
That's not even looting I can get behind. Like, fuck you.
No.
But like,
not at all.
But like, at the end of the day, if it's just like it's your business, as a small business owner, you have to have your shit protected.
Yeah, 100%, man.
That's it. You have to have insurance. If you don't have insurance, you're doing it wrong, and you aren't going to be around for that long anyway.
Or you can't be upset when something goes wrong,
and you don't have insurance,
and you weren't ready.
Right. I mean, it's the same as having car insurance. Same as having like health insurance. If you aren't paying for health insurance, and when you, like, for myself, I had a fucking kidney stone, and I was dying. Like, my pain was so incredibly high that when I went in, I don't even know how much that fucking visit to the emergency room cost. But it was like, it was the visit to the emergency room. So it was the bed, it was the CT scan. Right. It was a lot of shit that cost a lot of money. And I don't think it cost me much at all.
Right, because you had insurance.
Because I have insurance. Had I not had it, holy shit.
Right, now people will argue the fact that, like, oh, well, you're in a good situation where you have that. It's like, well, yeah, but that doesn't mean, like, we're in a situation where we have that, but that doesn't mean we're happy in the situation that we're in, right? Like, we have it.
It doesn't even matter. It doesn't even matter if we're happy. It's just a matter of, like, we have insurance. Like, I had the choice of not getting insurance.
Right. You could be, right. But that's what I'm saying. You could be in a situation where you are happy, but you might not have insurance.
Right.
And then you got to deal with that.
Right.
Right.
And so there's a trade-off. There's a trade-off for everything.
You got to play.
That's why I have very little sympathy at this point for any businesses that are affected by this, because insurance, eat a dick.
Yeah, you got to have it,
like,
man. You got to have it.
If you are a retail, like if you are a retail location that has a front glass and shit that people want inside,
yeah,
you need to have insurance.
100%.
How else can I explain that?
100%. But speaking of that, let's go into
let us update on story we talked about last week.
Which is what we're talking about right now. So first of all, let's talk about just in general the case update for George Floyd, which is great news. It's great news.
Yep.
The main police officer, don't know his name, don't give a fuck what his name is, got confirmed that he is getting second-degree murder charge, which is great. The reason, so obviously watching Philip DeFranco, which is where I like to get my news. I don't give a shit about all the other news. Phil puts it in perspective in both ways, and then you can think for yourself, which is how I like it. He, explained that first degree would mean that there was a proper intent going into knowing you were going to murder this person. You can't, unfortunately, put that on the cop because unless he knew he was like gonna go in, he's like, I'm gonna kill this black guy, I don't give a shit, right? Which we can't prove that he did or not. We can't he can't be charged for that, right? Because that's what first degree is. But I am happy to see that it went from third degree to second degree, mainly because in addition to that, though, which was the second longest.
Hold on. Here's what it is. Here it is. Now faces a charge of second-degree murder in addition to the third-degree murder charge officials filed last week.
Oh shit! Okay.
In addition.
On top of that, we have the three other police officers are also charged for aiding, abetting.
Yep, they face charges of felony aiding and abetting second-degree murder and second-degree manslaughter.
And which is 100% a proper decision.
Their charges carry the same potential sentences as the main dude, Chauvin, including a maximum 40-year prison sentence.
And I hope to God that is the prison sentence that they get.
Yeah.
Here's the thing. And I've talked about this before, when there's four of you armed, the man is in cuffs.
Yep.
There's absolute zero, and I mean fucking zero. And if you don't understand that, there's something wrong with you already. There is zero reasoning for any kind of excessive force to be used on a human being. On a human being. I don't give a shit who you are. That kind of excessive force is not in any shape or form proper, necessary when somebody's in cuffs on the ground already.
Mm-hmm.
Why were there 3 cops on this guy? Why was one of them on his neck where he couldn't breathe?
The other two were on his back.
I'm sorry. If you have a problem with this,
and shockingly, by the way, I was so shocked, blown away, couldn't believe it. Hashtag sarcasm. The independent autopsy that was conducted found almost certainly that the cause of the death was not due to some underlying conditions. It was, in fact, due to pressure being applied on specific
which he does
parts.
state, though, that you wouldn't have known that unless there was video footage of showing somebody doing that. Right, because you can't actually see
because
that pressure being applied because it's not there anymore.
Because
that
goes away.
Fact would have suffocated him. So if you're unaware, he did die.
He was murdered on camera and in front of witnesses. Just it still took 4 days for them to fucking arrest the motherfucker.
So that case update, super excited to hear it. I hope to God it sticks
maximum
they get maximum numbers, and it needs to stick. And what I want to go into talking about is outside this, right? We talked about a little bit about the writings and stuff like that. Here's the thing. People have been quoting MLK for the writing part, right? They're saying that I forgot how the speech actually goes. I'm going to butcher whatever I'm going to say, but it's basically that writing is the language of the unheard.
Right.
But there's more to that. There's a whole statement that he says, which you can look it up yourself. But here's the thing. I don't disagree with rioting, but at the same time, first of all, let me put this in perspective. The people that are looting and rioting, majority of them are not the protesters. Majority of them are people trying to take advantage of the situation. A lot of them, majority, not a lot, majority of them are not even from the states that it's happening in.
Right. Yeah,
so
external agitators.
I already understand that. You don't have to explain that to me. I already understand that. I'm not even trying to focus on those. However, there are some that are part of the protest that do agree with the rioting. And like I said, they're throwing out that quote from MLK. And here's the problem. And here's where I agree with you. I agree with you. At some point, quiet protesting is not enough. It's not. It's just simply it isn't. I don't care who you are, if you agree or disagree. It just simply is not.
I mean, we just saw the proof. We just saw the proof. 2016, they protested peacefully.
Look at history.
And now?
Look at history and look at it repeat. That tells you why it's not.
Right.
Okay? I don't have to tell you anything else. Look at what's happened in the past. Look at the current, and it clearly keeps repeating itself. So protesting quietly does not work. It works to an extent, but not how it needs to. So I understand the riot, but I will say this. You spoke about insurance, and I get it. Insurance should be had for those businesses. But here, let me tell you this. Business owners, small ones, that might not have insurance, and that is their livelihood, and that's all they know, right? They can't even fathom about having a different job, right? Because this is their thing. This is what they love. This is what they do. They want to die for this, right? They want to die doing this, what they have created.
Right.
These people are most likely on your side, most likely, okay? But, right, and if it came down to it, if they had to fight, they would fight on your side, right? Most of them. I'm not saying all of them, but most of them. Here's the problem. The minute you start taking their thing away, the minute you start destroying their thing, now I get it. Well, this will kind of put it in perspective on like they need to listen. Now I get that. It's not that they're not, but they are focusing on their life too. That's something else. That's a whole conversation that we can go into in this podcast because that's the point of this podcast. But the minute you destroy their thing, the minute you take away their thing, they're no longer going to be thinking about how they want to be part of your cause. Now they're mad. Now they're upset. Now they don't want to be part of your cause. Most likely, that's what's going to happen. Now, there are rarities where I've seen recently there was an owner of a company, seems to be well off, has insurance, and I believe it was a she, said that she is actually perfectly fine with the rioters destroying her business. Rightfully so, because that tells me that she can afford that to happen.
right.
For the right cause, and that's great. But that's not majority of the business owners,
Right.
and that does not work. Now, I will say this, and this is going to be very, very, a lot of people are going to probably say I'm wrong, but I don't care. Like I said, I do believe that rioting does have to happen, and stuff like a police station burning down, as long as nobody gets hurt, as long as the police get out of
Right.
the building, might need to happen.
Yeah.
Because that's the system.
Mm-hmm.
That is the system that's wrong. That is the system that's making bad decisions.
Right.
And if their buildings, their structures, their property has to be destroyed for them to listen,
Yep.
then that's what needs to happen. Because they are the ones that have people's lives in their hands. Simply because they carry a gun, simply because they control the narrative, simply because they decide who goes to prison and who doesn't. Not just the police, but I'm talking about anybody that has power.
Right.
But I will say this. The police, and I just watched peaceful protest, man's just sitting there pouring his heart out, saying, I love you guys, I don't want to be against you. It's a black man, but he's at a protest. They're all kneeling. And he's just saying this to the cops that are sitting, I don't know, 10 feet away from them, right?
And they went and grabbed him, right?
With the riot gear. And they grabbed his ass and put him in cuffs. Here's the thing. One thing that you have to understand, if you're listening to this and you're not agreeing with us, here's what you got to understand. One, every human being in this world has the right to free speech. Number two, every person in this country has the right and freedom to protest peacefully. It was during the day, so he wasn't breaking any curfew that might be in effect. The minute you, as a police officer in charge of that group of police officers, if it's the captain, the sheriff, or whatever, say, go get him, arrest him, you are abusing your power. You are not above the law. You are not the law. You are just there to make sure the law is upheld. That's it. The minute you abuse your power and you go above the law, you don't follow the law, you are fired. Fired. You abused your power, and that's all I need to know, that you don't know how to do your job properly.
Yep.
Because what other situation? That's a peaceful. There's nothing. Every single protester's kneeling. This man is saying beautiful words. You can hear the sorrow in his fucking voice because he wants just everybody to get along. He's telling the cops, I love you. I don't want to be your enemy. I just don't want violence, stuff like that. And they arrested him. The minute now I get it. The police officers that did get him and put him in cuffs, they were just following orders, and I understand that. You have to follow orders. There's plenty of jobs, even my job, that I have to do shit that I'm told to do, even though I don't give a shit about it. I don't agree with it. But the police officer that made that decision, that gave the order, that police officer should be fired immediately. That is an abuse of power, and I can only imagine how else he abuses power if in that situation he abused power.
Do you know that it was something where they were told to do it, or?
Yeah, absolutely. You could see the cop back there just walking around, and he's telling them, go. He's telling them, go do it. And then 4 police officers walk up and grab him. So
this has just been. I watched a TikTok of this like skinny white girl talking about how she saw a protest where the police attacked someone who looked exactly like her, a skinny white girl, and she was standing there peacefully, she was protesting, and they beat her.
Yeah.
And she's like, for 1 second, I had a feeling that is like what Black people feel every day.
Oh yeah.
About when they see themselves constantly attacked and hit and hurt and fucking murdered by the police because of what they look like.
Yeah.
Like for just 1 second.
Yeah.
And I'm
man.
like,
it's don't get me wrong. I get it. There's good police officers. We got to focus on that too. I'm not sure where it was, but there was that one captain or something like
Sheriff in Michigan.
Sheriff in Michigan. He came out, took his stuff off. He said, listen, guys, I'm not against you. I'm all for what you're doing. I want the right justice for you guys. I want the equality. And he walked with them. He made it. He said, I want to make this a parade, not a fucking protest. They said, walk with us. And he did. He grabbed his guys and they walked together. That is beautiful. And that's the shit we need to see. Now, when we have somebody like the current president that's saying shit that
he's threatening military action in the U.S., which is illegal.
First of all, 100%. If he wasn't, he was trialed for evidence that was against him, and he passed that for some reason. Somehow he got not guilty, even though clear as day he was guilty. When you threaten, and this is 100% my opinion, but when you threaten the citizens of the United States of America with a military force for once again, you're not threatening the people taking advantage of the protest. You're threatening the protesters, that you're going to bring military into the states to control what is happening. You are enforceably doing terrorism. You are enforceably doing. You are going against your country. Yep. I don't give a shit if you're the president of the United States. You're not there to make your own rules. You are there to make. We have a president. We have governors. We have mayors. The reason they're there is to do the things we want them to do, not the shit they want to do.
Well, that's not what a lot of them think.
Oh, for sure. No, 100%. But that's how this government was set in place. Is those people do the things we want them to do.
They're supposed to be for the people.
It's for the people. So, when you're there saying that you're going to bring military to control what's happening, you, sir, are 100% saying that you're going to cause terrorism within the United States of America yourself. Yep. You are going to be treasonous to the United States. That's what you're stating. And the fact that nobody's called him out on that is insane.
People are, but he doesn't care. He doesn't care. And you have all the good old boys, all the fucking racists are out there.
I'm sorry. I know for a fact there is a law, a rule in the government.
There sure is.
Where if a president is deemed unfit to run the country, he gets the fuck out.
But he has to be deemed unfit by Congress, and they're not going to do that because they're afraid of being on his wrong side.
And so that's where I go into the next. Here's the problem. So I want to put a little perspective in, like, who's this white guy talking shit. So let me tell you who this white guy is. I grew up in Chicago. I grew up in a rural area of Chicago by visiting my dad quite often. And in that rural area, there was plenty of different ethnicities. We had me, white man, white boy at the time.
What the fuck do you mean by rural area in Chicago? Do you mean...
I mean not rural, but I mean like it wasn't like the nicer points of Chicago, right? My dad lived in an apartment building.
It wasn't a great neighborhood, is what
you're saying. Yeah. So it wasn't like a nice neighborhood in Chicago. I played ball with people that were Mexican, black, in an alleyway with a carton, and this was a continuous thing that I always hung out with those people anytime I was out there, and there was never a moment in our time where we looked at each other and we thought, oh, you're different than me. No, we just played ball, we hung out, we enjoyed ourselves, we had fun. My niece is half black. My sister, this made me cry, by the way. I'm going to admit this on camera and on the podcast. My sister, I think a day or two ago, she told me last night, but a day or two ago, she had to tell my beautiful, amazing niece, who is 8 years old. She, come on, focus on the podcast, man. Let's go. God, What? Oh yeah, okay, mute yourself. So she told her, uh, she had to have a conversation with her. She had to have a conversation with her to explain to her why a black man was killed, why people are angry, um, and have that conversation with her, which really opened her eyes up to the situation because she never thought about having to do that with her daughter. Then she proceeds to tell us that me and my wife we're in the chat together, and she tells me that later on at some point my 8-year-old niece tells my sister that she doesn't like her skin, and that made me cry. Not at first, uh, not at the point where like it was sad because I was working,
Right.
and I was just angry, right? I was upset that my 8-year-old niece in 2020 had to say something like that.
Right.
But then later on, after I got off work and I was laying down, I was like, "Fuck, man," and it hit hard. And so here's the problem, and here's what I understand. Now, for my niece, I'll always tell her not to be concerned about that. I will always tell her that the people who do that are, unfortunately, we don't live in a perfect world. So we're gonna always live in a world where there's hate, where
Right.
there's just simply hate for the wrong thing.
Right.
And that's just inevitable. That's what's gonna happen. But the system needs to change. The system where they're able to put people in jail for no reason because of their skin color. The system where a black man will get approached and be like, "Oh, you're the guy we're looking for," even though in fact he is not the guy that you're looking for, but you're just saying that because he's black and he happens to be there.
Yep.
And he fits the description of a black male wearing these type of clothes.
Mm-hmm.
Like, okay. That system needs to change. Now, here's the problem. That system, and it sucks that I'm about to say this, but it won't change. Here's the thing. Certain things will be added to throw sprinkles at people to get them to quiet down, to get them to calm down, right? For instance, body cameras. They were a sprinkle. Those body cameras can be turned off at any point at the officer's discretion. They can.
Yep.
And then anything that happens while those cameras are off, it's what she said or what he said.
Half the time it doesn't matter if they're on or off.
For sure.
There's a video of this dude that it's a traffic stop. He pulls the guy over. It's a black dude. He pulls him and the passenger out of the car because, quote unquote, we smelled weed. He spends 20 minutes fucking searching the car, doesn't find anything, ends up planting something. All recorded because his camera was on.
Right. So,
but they had to find something,
They had to, yeah, man. You got to get people in trouble, especially if you're, darker skin. And I've said this, to a few people, and I said, the only way, and it sucks, does this suck that I'm about to say this because I hate it. The only way. And there's going to be real change. That's why I was talking about like rioting against government buildings and stuff like that. It makes sense. Is because the only way there's going to be real change to the actual system is there's one of two ways. One of them will never happen, and I'll tell you that one first. Is to remove everybody that's in office in every scenario and put in people we know that we want to run the office, that we know personally. Mm-hmm. I'm not talking about people that are sitting there, hey, vote for me, look at my beautiful presentation of myself. No. That we know, and we put them in office, and we're like, hey, run the country. That'll never happen. It's just not. Even if 100, how many people voted? 162 million people voted in the last election. Mm-hmm. Even if all those people showed up to Washington, D.C. and sat every leader of this country in a big old office and said, here's 162 million, you're all fired, they wouldn't give a flying fuck. They were like, nah, homie, we're still going to sit here because
that's how it's set up.
We don't give a shit.
But they can do that. They can do that because they can vote them out.
Right, for sure, 100%. But here's the
don't.
problem. But we talk about this. Unless somebody is genuinely there to make proper change and not take orders from the rich who run them, it ain't gonna happen, right? So the only other way, so that scenario ain't gonna happen. So the only other way, and it sucks that I'm about to say this, is war. We've had it before. It sucks. And it's the only way actual proper systematic change happens.
But dude, it took another.
I know.
It took another.
I know that, but I'm just saying.
It was. Hold on. I don't know how I just learned about this. But there is a celebrated holiday called Juneteenth. It is June 19th. It is the day that it was 2.5 years on this day in 1865, almost 2.5 years after the implementation of the Emancipation Proclamation, the enslaved African Americans were informed of their liberation in Texas, the final Confederate state where slavery was abolished.
Right.
So that was the last day, technically. That was the day slavery was ended.
I get that.
So 2.5 years after
the war.
Yeah.
And I get that, but let's be real. These protests, they're catching people's attention, right? But let's be serious. Is real change going to happen? Like the actual system change, where people that are in jail right now for literally nothing, for literally not a damn thing, but they're just sitting in jail. Are they going to get taken out? Is the system going to change? Is it going to adjust to the point where it needs to be for proper equality?
Well, no, you had, and here's the thing. And this is, I just watched a Flagrant 2 podcast episode with Andrew Schultz and Akash Singh. They were talking about, Andrew made a really good point. Trump just wants to have the win. He doesn't care
what the
about
win
He doesn't. He doesn't care about anything. He doesn't care about anything except winning, except being quote unquote right in the end.
Yeah.
He was talking about how stuff that is national news, he has to play to his base. So the white, fucking conservative, hardcore motherfuckers, like he has to play to them. That's why when Charlottesville happened, he was like, "Oh, like they were very fine people, and there was problems on both sides, and like stupid shit like that, which wasn't true." Right. And that's why now he's like, "Oh, the looting's bad, blah blah blah. Like this isn't the way to do it. I'm going to send in the military."
I get it.
But in between those times, guess what? When it was not national news, when it was not a big main, news article, you had Kim Kardashian, whoever it is, it doesn't matter to me. Like as long as somebody's making some moves, she went and stood up and had a black man who was unjustly kept in prison. She had him presidentially pardoned. And it happened a few times with a few different people. And it was just like little things, little changes, but unless it's a national issue, then he plays to his fucking base. Then he plays to the fucking hateful motherfuckers. Right.
The problem is though, is there's still plenty of people out there.
Oh yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's the problem. So this needs to be. That's what I'm saying. This needs to be a system change. Proper.
Dude, I watched a TikTok that perfectly broke it down, and it like blew my mind. I didn't even think about it. He said, "Imagine." He said somebody he had done a TikTok where somebody commented about, "Oh well, like black people amount to 50% of the crime. How do you explain that, right?" And he's like, if you had a bag full of marbles and you had 85 marbles in there, but only 13 were red and the rest of them were blue. And if you put your hand in there and you came out
with a blue one,
and half of them were half of the ones you pulled out were red, you were looking for those. You were looking for those.
That's true. I mean, that's true.
You were looking for them. Like that's the simple math. That's the simple math.
That's true. Yeah, that's true. I mean, that's literally that's a great way of putting it. Yeah, 100%. So in all honesty, like here's the thing. I mean,
my apologies for the audio boost right here. My AC just kicked on.
Oh no, you good. I'm not.
Well, you can, but the podcast can hear it.
Oh, it can. Okay. here's the thing. We all gonna have our opinions. We're all gonna have our views and stuff like that. But certain things cannot be ignored as a human being, as a proper human being who's able to use their mental capacity and think. Okay. Human beings are human beings. It does not matter what color they are, what eye shape they have, or anything. Human. Period.
Yep.
That's it. Now that we know that we understand that, there shouldn't be a difference how this human and this human is treated. Because they're human. It doesn't matter what they look like. Now, if this human is an asshole and he's causing problems, that's a different story. But if you're just basing it off of how they look, or you're going for them because of how they look, that's a problem. You are no longer treating them like a human. You're treating them more like an animal. I mean, shit, what we saw with George Floyd, that man looked like he was hunting a deer. He was on that neck like he just caught a deer.
Right.
Like,
he
not a human being.
Look, there is no... If you are someone who has seen that video and you somehow fucking don't realize that was just murder, like hardcore murder.
By the way, there is. Hold on, let me show you something that I would like you to show this. Put this on the sharing with the internet
send it to me on Facebook.
Yeah. I'm gonna do it right now. This is no, it wasn't him. It wasn't him. It was this. Just so you're aware, yes, in fact, there are people that believe there was nothing wrong, that it's a joke, Hold on. I just pulled it up. Going on Facebook right now.
I now have to apologize for the music because my wife's Zumba class is about to start. So we're going to be wrapping up here in a second.
Click on that, open it up.
Fuck that.
Oh, show it. Show what people think is funny.
I cannot tell you how fucking pissed off I was when I saw this challenge. This fucking ignorant, dumb bullshit. Oh my fucking God, dude.
In fact,
holy
people are out there.
Shit, dude. When I saw that, I was like, I would wring these little motherfuckers' necks. Are you kidding me?
In fact, there are people out there that saw George Floyd die and think it's funny.
Fucking insane. Fucking sane. I saw that and I was like, I literally opened whatever, it was like a news story or something, and I was like, I can't. I fucking can't. I just closed it. I'm like, I don't know what the fuck to even say to shit like that, because that is so dumb shit idiotic.
Tell me about
how the fuck? How do you watch that video and think that is not murder? How? How is it funny?
How is it a challenge? How is it funny? How is this a thing? A man got killed like an animal.
The shit is fucking...
And then you do something like this? Like, people exist like this. And that's just,
That's why I posted what I posted on our YouTube channel. Like on the main channel, which if you are listening, watching, youtube.com/D3G Media, that's where we do like a normal stuff. But that's why I posted... the only thing I posted this week was I posted Black Lives Matter, and if you fucking need an explanation and you don't fucking get that, get the fuck out. Like, I don't fucking want to hear it.
And just so you guys are aware, now don't get me wrong, when I first started hearing it all the time, I was getting annoyed with it, right? I'm not going to lie. I'm not going to deny it. Me and you talk about it a lot. We used to always have conversations about it, right?
Yeah, we had to...
But here's the thing. When they say Black Lives Matter, they're not talking about that just Black Lives Matter.
Right.
They're not saying when people reply all lives matter. Yeah.
The analogy is recent and it's perfect. Let's say you have a row of houses and house number 2 catches fire. And the fire department shows up and they're like, we're going to go ahead and put some water on this fire. And house number 3 is like, but what about my house? All houses matter. Right, but this one's on fire. This one is where the people need help.
Right. And, very epic speech by Dwayne Johnson Um, he came on on social media. He came
Go
on,
lie down.
I think the main video was meant for Instagram, but I'm sure he shared it across all platforms. And it was the "Where are you?" Speech that he did.
Yeah.
And it's about 5 minutes, 7 minutes long. I can't remember. And in there, he talks about it. He says, "Yes, all lives matter, but in this current moment, at this current time,
right,
we need to focus on the Black Lives Matter."
Could you imagine if a bunch of men came out to a Susan G. Komen rally where it's about breast cancer and they're like, but what about testicular cancer? All cancers matter.
Right.
Like, think about how stupid that would be.
Yeah. So, it's just, I don't, I've said this to somebody previously before we actually got on. Like, I have a problem where I grasp onto things. I have anxiety and depression. So depression, you really grasp onto the negative and you just sit there and everything, all the negative, everything that's in the world, everything that's around you, that's happening to you, that's happening to the world, you just grasp on that. This is different.
Right.
For me, I see this and I'm not focused about any other negative. Now negatives that I might be, having in my own head about my life, nothing. I'm only focusing on this injustice, this negative that at this age, it feels like, and I know it's not true, because, there are plenty of good people out there. But the problem is the ones that are not are loud, really loud, and very hurt. But at this age, in this time, it feels like, because they're so loud, that instead of as a human race, that we should be proud that we're evolving, it feels the opposite.
Yep.
It feels like we're devolving.
Yep.
It feels like we're going to primitive times.
Yep.
Where we don't know how to think. Where we don't know the difference between right and wrong.
Yep.
I'm pretty sure even animals know the difference between right and wrong, and we seem to not.
Yeah.
And it sits there, and I have this crazy rage over this, and it's not good. And it's not good. And I, I've said this, and I said, I'm not going to lie to anybody. I haven't figured out my life. So because of that, I'm not going to do a lot of the things that I should be doing, right? I'm not going to try to figure out when the protest is happening so I can go protest. I'm not going to be able to get an audience with a governor or a mayor, the ones that should hear a white man tell them they're wrong, because that's what our friends said to do. They said, you're a white man, and you got to understand that what you just said is not what a lot of white men think, or even women. They don't think that way, so you need to talk to them, not to us, because we have friends that are black. And I told them when George Floyd happened, I said, I'm sorry. I said this in the last podcast. I was speechless. I said, I'm sorry. I just didn't have words for them. I am aware that this has been going on for a long time. Like, that nobody had to explain that to me. It's just, to me, it's crazy that it's 2020. We keep moving forward in time, but it feels like as humans, we're going backwards.
Yeah.
And so I told them, and their response to me was, we appreciate what you're saying, but you need to go tell this as a white man. Mm-hmm. You need to go tell other white people.
And that's why we talk about this. That's why we talk about
that's why we're bringing it up in the podcast, because at least the only way I know how to is, we love doing the podcast. We love making this. And so if somebody out there can hear this message, maybe they were on the fence, maybe they weren't, maybe it was an education issue, they don't just hate, they just weren't aware.
Right.
And they hear this and they need to hear it from a white male, then here you go. I hope that this helps you understand what's wrong with this world. Because it's just, I don't know how many times we can say it. I don't know how many times anybody can say it. I don't care who you are. Whoever you've been listening to, all the people that are saying this is wrong, you need to listen. Because we're all human beings. All of us. Every single one.
And really, 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 you need to stop listening to mainstream media, because they're right now trying to make it about About
the riots,
and the looting. We have in the media gotten so far away from the point that it becomes more of a polarizing thing, because it's not about this very clearly bad thing that happened, and like I would say majority of people, regardless of political affiliation, saw it as bad. Right. No, now it's about what was it? Tucker Carlson or somebody was like, America's being like attacked or destroyed or whatever, some shit. And some of them are like, oh, this is something like a carefully planned, orchestrated thing to like take over America. I'm like, this is and this is where it gets lost, because you have these mainstream media people that day one, a bunch of Fox News people were like, this man was murdered on fucking camera. How is this possible? And like, you saw genuine rage and like how like you saw real humanity in them. And now a couple weeks later, now it's back to the fucking company line. Now it's back to the bullshit of just trying to satisfy your viewer base. Yeah. Mainstream media is terribly unfit to report actual news.
I agree.
That's why, like, I watch Philip DeFranco. I watch Patriot Act. I watch a couple other small news sources.
I watch Philip DeFranco, and that's it. I don't watch anything else.
You should, real talk. You should watch that Patriot Act episode that he just put up. It's on YouTube. He's mad.
The reason I like Philip DeFranco is he, honest to God, puts it both ways. You know, he gives you the both sides of things.
Right.
And then he says, "Hey, what do you think?"
He says, "These are the facts, and now here is my opinion." But that's the difference between him and mainstream media. Mainstream media is just like, "Here is my opinion." There might be some facts.
Right, and that's why, like, I might agree or disagree with him, but the way he presents it is the way it needs to always be presented.
100%.
Because there needs to be a proper way to be able to think for yourself and understand the difference of what is a personal opinion and what facts are. Yes, are there riots out there? Sure. But guess what? There's also cops that are just hitting protesters for no reason.
Dude, what they did in Washington D.C. is just disgusting.
Oh, not
even like more disgusting. Just like that specific incident. Holy shit!
That specific disgusting. Because here's the thing: not only were they going after protesters, there's clearly a media person. He's got a big old professional camera.
The reporter's right next to him.
And he whipped with the shield in the gut. And this guy's holding like barely fucking. He just gets knocked down.
I can't believe he didn't drop that camera. That man deserves a raise.
Is ready. Oh, for sure. And this cop's ready to hit him again. And I'm sitting there. That's how blind some of these cops are. Not all.
Yeah.
Don't get me confused. I know there's
the thing about it. Those weren't even cops. Those were federal. Some federal agency.
From what I understand, yeah. So, and they were told to move the protest out of the way. Not because they were being violent. They were ordered.
They were ordered
to move them.
Yep. So the federal whatever agency is doing it, I think it's the FBI. But regardless, whatever federal agency is doing it, they said they were going to come out to help enforce curfew, and it was like 30 minutes before curfew.
Yeah.
And they just started pushing people and shoving them.
And even the reporter on the street said nobody was being violent. Nobody did, because they were trying to say somebody was throwing water bottles. And she even said that is incorrect. She spoke about it.
Right.
She said, I was there. Nobody threw anything. Nobody was doing anything.
Yeah. Because they said we have it on video that there was no water bottle.
Yeah. They just went in. To fucking get the protest out of the way. That's fucked up. That shows right there. If you're blind, you cannot be blind to an actual thing that happened. It is recorded. It has been talked about. There's people who have confirmed the actual problem. They were ordered 30 minutes before curfew to get rid of the protest, and they were violent about it.
Yeah. It wasn't like they came out and said, "Hey, we're gonna clear the way. The president's gonna walk through. Whatever the fuck ever." They didn't say, "Can y'all please move?" They lined the fuck up and started marching.
Yeah. That's it.
And that by the way, marching. all for a very Hitler-like fucking photo op for the president.
Oh my God!
With his little holding the fucking.
Supposedly, the person that ordered the to move the
they had nothing to do with it.
Was not aware that the president was coming out.
Sure.
Was not aware that he was going to do it. That's not why they moved the protest.
Of course not. No. Why would you?
Why would he? This is my thing. There's no evidence on this, but this is my thing. Just taking 2 and 2 together, right? Just taking what's in front of me. You move the protest, and literally right after, like, I don't know, maybe 20 minutes after it's moved fully, the president comes out and gets a photo op. Yeah, you're right.
Oh, by the way, a photo op at a church that then went on the news and said, "Fuck this guy. We need a better president."
Yeah. And I'm not even.
I was so proud. I'm not religious.
So
I'm not any kind of religious.
I actually don't care for religion.
But holy shit, they went hard. They were like, "Fuck this dude."
I wanted. That's the first time ever I wanted to clap for a church at a.
Like, how do I get there? I'm gonna go to service there.
You know what?
He didn't call. By the way, he didn't call them. He didn't say he was coming. Nothing. He just showed up to take a little photo op outside.
No. Yeah.
Fuck out of here.
So at the end of the day, if we can do anything, it's to keep talking about it. The other thing I do is if somebody's in front of me, and I will put this out there, and I know you do it as well. If somebody's in front of me and they're doing something wrong or they're saying something that's incorrect, I do correct them.
Yeah,
I do
100%.
fight for what's right. No matter how inconvenient it is to me, which it is not. I actually love having an argument with idiots. It's great. It's fun.
I will fight a motherfucker. That's why I told my wife, I'm like, you got to be ready to stand up, and you need to be ready to fight for whatever you're standing up for.
It's tons of fun to argue with idiots. It's great because all you hear, they say one thing, but they're not throwing any evidence. They're just repeating what they keep saying because they believe
they just heard some shit on the internet.
Yeah. So it's great. It's hilarious.
Yeah.
But I will always 100% not just do these podcasts.
I think that's the real thing that we all need to do. We need to take a more active stance. It is. I didn't say this. I don't even know who started this, but it is not enough to not be racist. You have to be anti-racist.
Yeah. There is one more thing I do want to bring up. Grant Gustin. Jesus, why is that hard to say?
Flash.
Flash. The Flash himself on CW posted a video. It was a quick video of a gentleman talking about white people who might be feeling embarrassed, sad, and any of those feelings. And then I went to that gentleman's Instagram to watch the full video because Grant did have the full one. But you could see the tag and stuff like that. So I went to the full video, and he was explaining, hey, you might not be racist, you might be compassionate, loving, somebody who cares for others, somebody who loves others, and whole their life has treated people with respect, no matter what, and with love and stuff like that. But the problem is now you're put in a situation where you're like realizing what a problem really is, what people that are like you, where they're white, they might look like you, and they cause these problems for people, and that is not love. And you then realize in yourself that holy shit, that problem where I was just, showing love to people around me, but not actually doing anything about actual injustice, makes you guilty, makes you feel embarrassed, makes you feel sad. He explains it way better. So if you want to watch that, I forgot the gentleman. It's like Brendan K. something, I believe. But here's the thing, and I will reply to this. I don't feel those emotions, and here's why. I've never felt like I was a good person. I never felt. I've always said I'm an asshole. I've always said, and that's because, in all honesty, I am. I'm not denial. I'm not a negative human being.
Right.
I am a dick. I am a dick. But being a dick, I'd be a dick in the correct situation. I'm not a dick to anybody who's not a dick. I respect them. I look at them as humans, and I treat them as such. I don't care who they are, what they look like, what they believe in. Even if their belief is completely different than mine. Like, let's say I don't believe in religion and somebody really does. I have nothing against them.
Right.
I don't treat them like a dick, and I will have a conversation with them. But if they're a dick, I will treat them as such, and I will be a dick to them. But I never claim that I'm a nice person, because there are plenty of other people that are better than me that do actual nice things. So that's why I don't claim it, and that's why I don't feel it. But that doesn't mean I don't know the difference between right and wrong and how somebody should be treated.
Right.
And that doesn't necessarily ultimately make you a good person. Some people would say, well, that makes you a good person. I don't necessarily agree with that. But as a human, you should be able to use your brain and know the difference. If you don't, then maybe you need help.
100%.
I don't know what kind of help. I don't know if that means you need to talk with people, all different kinds of people, to understand what you're missing out on. If that means you need to go to a doctor, a therapist, to talk to them so they can put things in perspective for you, because that's what they're trained to do. That's what they've learned to do, to put things into perspective, to make you understand what might be wrong.
Right.
If that's what you need, that's what you need. But that doesn't necessarily make, once again, just because I know the difference between right and wrong, doesn't make me a nice person. So that's why I don't feel those emotions that they're talking about. I did approach my friends and I said, I am sorry, but that's not because I felt bad for me. I felt bad that this is the world we live in, all of us. And I just know that their world, even though we live in the same one, is worse than mine.
Right.
And that sucks.
Right. It does. It really does.
So,
it really does. And like I said, it is important not only to not hate other people. It is very, very important to stand up when others show hate. It is
absolutely.
There are a lot
absolutely.
of people. There are a lot of people that get real defensive about the term racism, and that's fine. I personally also think that it can be used a little too broadly, and it's more of a label. It's a label. Yeah. It's a label that people fight against. People fight against the label of racist as opposed to the actual thing they've done. So if you see someone being hateful towards someone, if you see someone belittling someone, attack that directly. Like, hey, you shouldn't speak to that person that way. You shouldn't belittle that person. You shouldn't be hateful to that person. Because if you just say, why are you a racist? People get real defensive about the label.
Real defensive.
And it's not so much. And some people might literally, some people just have the mentality that that's not racism. I don't hate black people generally. Right. Right, but you're being really dismissive. Whatever, whatever they're doing is the thing that you need to attack. I really think we need to, we've talked about this before, the top-down solution is never going to work. Right. That's why trickle-down economics doesn't fucking work.
Right.
We need to start at the bottom. We need to have one-on-one discussions, and then we need to have small group discussions, etc. We got to go up.
Well, like you said, the problem with saying, hey, you're being racist, that you're pretty much guaranteeing yourself no conversation there.
Right.
Because that person instantly heard you say that, and in their head, like you said, they're thinking, like, I'm not racist. Get the fuck out of here. We're done. We're not going to talk about it.
They're not going to have a conversation.
Because that's it. But if you bring up, like, what they're doing, like, dude, why are you hating on them? Why are you disrespecting?
Right.
What's wrong with you?
Yeah.
Those are different words. Those are different things that they're doing. And that will start the conversation. That will maybe even cause a proper argument. And I'm using argument as the actual definition. I'm not talking about argument as like a fist fight or, just a straight shouting match. I'm talking about a proper conversation.
A debate.
A debate. So when you bring up the right words, that will trigger something more than saying just you're being racist.
Right. Because I think the laziness in people like that to like make that connection of like racist doesn't mean that like I hate all black people, but like what I'm doing is racist. But like the laziness of that is the same laziness as the person that's observing it being like, you're just being racist. You're just racist. Like it's an easy thing to say. You feel like you did something.
Right.
when in fact you most likely didn't do anything, and that person's just going to close up more. And they're not going to be open to a conversation. They're not hearing that they're being disrespectful. They're being whatever to the person that they're dealing with. They're hearing, oh, you're racist. And you're like, oh, no, I'm not. And then that's no longer a conversation, like you said.
Before we end it, just real quick, just to show an example of that. I had an argument. I was at a friend's house, and they had other people that I didn't know that came by. And this was around the time where... And I do apologize. I don't remember names great. I don't follow the sport, but the NFL player that kept kneeling. Thank you. We had an argument about that, but a proper argument, right? I called that person out, but I didn't say, "What the fuck are you, a racist or something?" I didn't say that. I said, "Here's why you're wrong. Here's why your thought process of why you think he's wrong is wrong. You're not correct. What you're saying is irrelevant." Right? Because their argument was like, oh, my boy was in the military. He has no right to do that. My boy fought for this country. And I'm like, what does that have to do with him fighting injustice?
Right. He fought for that right.
Also, is your boy the only boy that was in the military? Because there's military personnel, old and young, that are telling this man he's right. And they were in the military. Not that they had somebody in the military. They were in the military.
Mm-hmm.
They served. They fought. They say it's right. A military personnel told them to kneel instead of, what was it? What was it originally? Just sitting? He wasn't standing?
Sitting.
He told them, a personnel that was in the military said, kneel instead. So if military personnel tell him it's right, you ain't right.
Yep.
You are not right because you had somebody that was in the military. You're not, because military personnel told him it was right. So at the end of the day, here's another reason why he was right for what he did. Here it is, right in front of you. 2020, we watched a black man die like he was an animal because the people that arrested him for a fraud, originally for being called for a bounced check. It
wasn't a check. It was like a bad 20 or whatever, like a fake 20.
Whatever. For being called for something that had to do with a money.
Something fucking simple. Something fucking really simple.
He got killed because they didn't see a human being. I mean, look at that. Just the photo of that man's face that's on his neck with his knee. He looks like he's killing an animal. He's on top of an animal that he's trying to put down. Look at it. Look at his face. He's hand in his pocket. He ain't nudging. He ain't reacting. People are shouting at him. Nothing. If you don't see it, if you don't see the wrongness, if you don't see why the NFL player, you just said the name, I still can't say. If you can't see why his kneeling was right, and he's not against America, he's not against the flag.
Right.
He's just against the injustice. And if you can't see that.
And here's the thing. 4 years ago, that was the right move, and that didn't do anything, and that didn't get anything done. So now we are at a new level.
And that's why when we started this
escalation has to happen.
Exactly. That's why when we started this conversation today, I said that maybe riots are what needs to happen. But like I said, to the correct buildings, not the wrong. You have to be smart about how you're doing that. You can't just
100%. Just I'll give you this as a parting thought here. There was a situation in Brooklyn, possibly somewhere in New York. This black woman just berates, just talks down this whole fucking group of white people, and it was definitely just a group of fucking white people who had come through to like loot or whatever and destroy shit. And they destroyed like a charging station that people use in the community. Like this is like a residential community.
Right.
And they just started breaking shit. And she's like, you motherfuckers, like you get to walk away from this. Like you are destroying my community. You are destroying the neighborhood. This is not where you do this. You want to do this on Wall Street? You want to do this on Main Street? This is not where you do this.
Yeah. Like if you're in your 20s, and you don't know how to think on what needs to be rioted on, but you're just doing it, and then you're destroying random shit like a fucking community. You're an idiot.
Right.
Maybe you should. You think you're doing something right? Maybe you should get educated on why you're an idiot.
Yeah.
Because that's not how you do it.
That's not how you do it. Get educated. Get educated, and I'll say this to any and all white people watching and listening. It is in no way a black person's job to educate you about this shit. Google the shit, motherfucker. If you come into a conversation and you start to say some shit, you better have your own knowledge and not like turn to your one black friend and say, what do you mean?
There's so many resources.
This is all documented. This is all.
There's just so many goddamn. I mean, you have the internet, which has access to everything. But on top of that, there's libraries, there's books. If you want to fucking read, go read. Like, are you serious?
There are podcasts.
There are
podcasts on just this subject matter alone.
Yeah, you can literally just listen. Just sit down and listen.
Listen and learn.
Shit, while you're working, put on some headphones. And
listen and learn. That's all I got. That's all I got to say. That's all I got.
I'm done, man. I've talked about it. That's it. We'll probably talk about it again because, I mean, this isn't over. And we can't just
Until those motherfuckers are in jail, this isn't over. Until we start seeing actual change, this isn't over. Yeah. I was talking to my therapist, and he's like, well, what do you think you can do? He's like, he was thinking more as far as like, making videos or writing something or whatever. I was like, you know what? I think when it comes time for election time, I'm going to go to every one of these local motherfuckers. Everyone is trying to get my vote and be like, what are your thoughts on this? Where do you stand on this specific issue? I can become a one-issue voter. Let's become one-issue voters on the shit that matters. Yeah. Actual equality in this fucking society.
Yeah, exactly. You know what I want to see changed? Right now, more than anything, the right leadership that knows how to handle equality and proper justice.
100%.
If they can change that system, I'll vote for you. If you can change it. Simple as that.
Yep.
Simple as that, man.
That's going to be it for this one. Thank you, everyone, for watching, for listening.
Yeah, thanks.
Apologize for the clapping, incessant fucking clapping, and the music in the background.
For slight interruptions during the podcast.
Slight interruptions for my dogs and shit. We chose a bad time for this, but that is what it is. I was expecting it to kind of go a little faster, but whatever. It is what it is.
Talk,
these always go as long as they need to. That's how I feel.
Absolutely. Sometimes you just got to talk, man. You can't just try to. That's. I mean,
hour
it
and a half.
Tangent.
Listen, it wouldn't be tangent. And it's only an hour and a half. This is like one of our shortest episodes.
I'm saying it wouldn't be tangents. And podcasts are. Look at Joe Rogan. Joe Rogan has a conversation for like an hour and a half and stuff like that.
Yep. That's gonna be it. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening, and we will see you, hear you. You will hear us. Whatever in the next one.
Definitely.